to you all that are with us today. We are more than delighted to be here, the 4th of April, 2026. And today we gather not just to celebrate a book, but to explore a reality that many families, businesses, and leaders quietly face. How do you honor a founder's vision without becoming confined by it? How do you preserve a legacy while still allowing growth, innovation, and transformation? In this powerful and timely work, Dr. Kasire challenges us to confront that tension. He invites us to rethink what it means to lead beyond the shadow, to galvanize new energy, and to create enterprises that don't just survive, but evolve. Whether you are part of a family business, an entrepreneur, a leader, or simply someone curious about the dynamics of legacy and progress, this book speaks directly to you. So tonight is more than a book launch. It is a moment of reflection, a spark for conversation, and perhaps a turning point for many who are ready to break away and move forward with purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's book launch, written by Fred Kasire. And let us begin. Our speaker today is none other than Fred Kasire, a university professor and researcher at Caucasus University in Georgia, with a strong focus on organizational behavior, human capital development, and business systems. His work explores how institutions and businesses can evolve to remain relevant in a rapidly changing world, with particular attention to learning, unlearning, and structured growth. Today, we are also marking the launch of his book, Breakaway to Galvanize: Why Family Enterprises Stall in the Founder's Shadow, which examines the realities facing family businesses, particularly in the African context, and offers practical insights on how communication, governance, and intentional people development can enable successful transition across generations. He joins us today to share how we can build enterprises that don't just grow, but endure beyond the founder. Before I allow Dr. Kasire to come and introduce and say more about the book, I just want to let you know that we are Neurofarm Uganda, a platform that connects professionals and ideas across borders. With you today is Samantha Elf, all the way from Finland, and I'm your host today. Thank you very much, Dr. Kasire. You're most welcome.
Thank you, Samantha. I am very, very happy to be here today, particularly on Euroforum, have this conversation, especially because I know the work that you do rotates around bringing together people from all over the world, especially from Uganda, out in the diaspora. Right to the topic of the day, the matter relating to the book that I recently published, Breakaway to Galvanize. A book trying to navigate different aspects that contribute to the stalling of founders, businesses, just because they're not letting go. So that is the kind of conversation that we are going to have today to create an impression to all our very, very dear listeners today who made it timely to attend this particular book launch. I want to thank you all from wherever you are. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. And for those in the night, probably, we'll be saying good night later as we wind the show. So why this whole idea? Well, I come from a background of a community that is very, very profound in valuing family. That's the African community. And Um, little do they actually feel and know that that is quite a resource that they are not using optimally, especially when it comes to business. In the way of my work over the years, I have been privileged to work with a number of family businesses, as well as start some on my own. And this is the motivation that drove me to share my mind with those who have been there before and those who intend to actually take this path for purposes of aligning minds and getting the best out of what their ventures basically talk to. And history has it that a family is the smallest unit of all society, and it mirrors what society basically could be or is. Now, given that background, I carry with me up to about 20 years of experience in the higher education sector. And in this sector, I have moved around both humanities and business school. While in Uganda, where I learned about 16 years of my work, I interacted with different institutions, primarily in the Faculty of Humanities. At some point with a business school, and then later at some point with a banking school. And in all these scenarios, I noticed one very great challenge. The challenge of individuals going to school and failing to navigate space after school, basically transitioning from school to way of life. And of course, that defeats any understanding, because the reason you go to school is basically to obtain knowledge to navigate life. But coming out of school and you cannot navigate life becomes quite a challenge. Of course, confusing as well. So then why did you go to school? In this conversation, I'm going to be very, very simple in my way of analysis of issues, because when I was writing this book, I intended to have every reader navigate it from a simple point of view, not from an academic point of view, but rather a practical point of view. Relate to it and appreciate the concerns around themselves, the challenges that they actually face, and also what they can do to redeem their business ventures. Now, in business school where I work today, here at Caucasus University in Georgia, we primarily believe that, like any other business school, numbers do not lie. So let's start with the numbers. This is going to be the only numerical attribute in this whole launch, so it shouldn't confuse any normal listeners. But 80% to 90% of the businesses in Uganda are family enterprises. That's quite a volume. And it's amazing. These are small kiosks, poultry farms, name it. 80 to 90%. That's quite an awesome number. And what this speaks to us is that, these are actually driving the economy. They are driving the economy because that's where the money is. And they are sustaining all nature of government enterprises in terms of the taxes that they pay. So basically, they are carrying the weight of the entire economy. But this is the challenge. Of all those businesses, only up to 20% see the light in the second generation. So what happens to the other fraction? And if that's not disturbing enough, only not more than 5% see the third generation. I think for the commendable examples that we have in Uganda, for instance, we can see the Madivani family, which is currently at the third and fourth generation. And we've all been taking their products for our household use for many, many years. And this is attributed to something that I want to talk about today. But before I talk about it, let me again give you something that you'd like to look at on the other side of the world. What do the statistics look like elsewhere? In Europe, only 60% of the businesses there are family enterprises. Only 60%. Quite a fraction lower than what is in Uganda. But here is the magic. Those 60% actually rule the world. Those 60% actually rule the world. They communicate, they have structures, governance systems exist, and they are built for endurance. So what are we building for as a community? We are often challenged in our society when we see prominent persons pass on and all their estates are sold off. Just as they exit, the entities exit with them. And this is simply because they did not make the right choices while they were growing these entities. Yes, they succeeded as individuals, but these entities were personality-led, not institutionalized. Then they had a lazy, free culture, a culture that destroyed their entities, where they did not groom their children to appreciate the entities that they started up. Now, grooming takes all nature of things, including training. Were they intentional? Probably not. They trained their children in the best courses across the globe, but none of those courses spoke to the businesses that they started. In this case, they trained human resources for everyone else, everywhere in the world, but not for themselves. Now, does that make business sense? Certainly not. You cannot start up an entity and then make it a liquidation trap. No. It's important that we start to imagine that when we raise families and we must be very intentional across all levels of these families as they grow, including and not limited to the businesses that we actually start. What this simply asks of us is to put in place the minimums, and I borrow this from what I normally teach. For all on the call, I teach primarily 3 areas. That's business communication, organizational behavior, and adding value through human capital. And these areas directly influenced my thinking when I was putting together this book to speak to you. Why it is important to communicate, why it is important to put in place structures, why it is important for you to value human capital. And that human capital raised right from your family. Why are you training for everyone else and not for yourself? So these questions come out very candidly and support the idea that as we think through family businesses, we need to prime marks on them. Let's look at a case, for instance, for families in the diaspora. Well, a family owner, head of the family, lives somewhere in the diaspora, but heavily invests back home. Later in the evenings of his time, he tries to go home to identify with the business. He's a foreigner in his own business. And he also is guessing that probably his children, who have not been in touch with the business, will eventually take up from him. It doesn't work that way. Nurturing asks of you to walk the journey with those that you want to be a part of that journey. Nurturing asks of you to ask and involve your children professionally in all you do that makes sense as a business. And so, while putting this together, aspects of organizational behavior were very, very important for me to consider. And surely so, I digested them and made them into quick bites, small, easy to consume messages that speak to the subject of organizational behavior, how organizations are expected to build culture, to institutionalize, and make sure that they live beyond their founder. I also talked about the importance of communication. Are roles of family members clear? Or they just have to figure it out? Now, because you do not have serious conversations about how to manage your entity, then you are creating a chance for it to slip out of your hands into a direction you probably never envisaged. But you are the entire reason why this ever could have happened. So, given this background, Breakaway to Galvanize was created. And prior to its writing, I took a couple of studies as well as a couple of practical engagements with different families. Notably, the gentleman that offered me my forward, heavily invested in machinery works in Uganda, owning a company called Power Products Uganda. He's been a mentor for some time, and I have been able to learn a lot from him. How he runs his business, the challenges that he has had in that business, and also what he needs to see happen ahead after him. It's a journey that I can comfortably say I have walked with him. Through his wisdom, I have obtained a lot of knowledge that buttresses my theoretical appreciation of businesses and how they run. But better still, how they should run within the Ugandan context. Other examples speak to the most prominent business mogul in Kampala. I had the privilege of working with them for 6 years and closely. And every Wednesday I would have a business meeting with the two principals. Unfortunately, one recently passed on last year. And I learned what it means, for instance, to disagree on principle. I attended meetings where the father and the son locked horns over an idea, and I felt like it was threatening. But wait a minute, they have a family to raise, but most importantly, they have a business to take care of, and the business is an independent entity that both of them have to take care of. So to disagree in principle is one thing that I saw was a very important thing to appreciate and bring into businesses, even at the family level. It does not compromise love. If anything, that is the real show of love. Of course, many people find it difficult making the difference between home and work. But when you identify the difference between home affairs and work affairs, that is the beginning of the journey to success. Did you know, for instance, that you can bank on the gender dividend? That looking at your daughter as
everything that is white, yellow.
to maybe having a problem? Oh, sorry. Okay. Did you know that you can actually bank on the gender dividend? And when you have your daughters involved in the business that you do, as opposed to only focusing on your sons, in this case, you raise stewards and not heirs. People very well versed with the way you run your business. Now, these are things that I talk about in this book, and I bring them out in very simple ways that are easy to consume for a simple person, not an academic, an individual out there doing business, a person that would like to thrive and would like to see their business thrive beyond them. That kind of conversation is exactly what I speak to in this book. And of course, I do implore many, many, many people to interact with it and progress the conversation. Samantha, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fred, for that insight. And to all of you listening in and watching us here, I guess you are all picking a lot from Doctor here. Moving forward, Doctor, could you kindly take us through where this comes from?
Sure. It's a long history. Away from my career, look at aspects to do with practice, the nature of teaching that I do, but also lived experiences. As earlier on mentioned, I have seen firsthand businesses that have done a great deal of growth collapse. But also, I have seen businesses that have had a great effort try to navigate from the first generation to the second generation. As part of my day-to-day life, I actually do mentorships every June, July, and August for family enterprises. And the lessons therein speak to many of the things that I speak about in this book. So it's an idea that I've been thinking about over many years of practice, of my professional life, and of lived examples that I have personally experienced. And given the nature of our society, this felt like a noble contribution. If I could move just half an inch to rectify the challenges that we face as a community, I would be a happy person, for I would have made a contribution in my life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for that. I now kindly request you to take us through the validation.
Oh. Now the validation, well, I did a bit of that earlier.
Yeah.
I did a bit of that much earlier, but yes, let's talk about communication. 1,
yeah.
2, let's talk about organizational behavior, and 3, let's talk about diaspora dynamics. Talking about communication, I have alluded to the point that it's important to navigate all intricacies relating to your business, from the operations to governance issues, and also talking about even most disturbing aspects that speak to things of exit. Talk about when you are not around, what should or what would be the best way to move forward. When you talk succession in Africa or in Uganda, it feels like you are winding up and about to die. No, that's not the case. Talking succession actually invites a discussion of endurance beyond your abilities. When you empower people by having open conversations that do not gag them, then you open up conversations that are way beyond what you probably have ever imagined. Well, we agree and appreciate the fact that founders put in a lot of work in order to see their businesses thrive. But it is important for us to appreciate the fact that even beyond their ideas, those that they nurture, they look after, have ideas too, and they can support those businesses to progress beyond them. So communication is important, and I speak to it. Number two, organizational behavior. Now, a well-known scholar in this area, Peter Drucker, speaks to the fact that culture, its strategy or lunch any day. What that speaks to is the fact that without a proper culture, no matter how good your structure is, how good your strategy is, the culture will eat it away. Mm-hmm. So it's important that you listen to those positive cultural aspects that will breathe life into your business venture. Those questions need to be asked. Identify with a culture that promotes the entity beyond your personal existence. And then thirdly, aspects around human capital and adding value to human capital. I talked about it earlier and I can underline it further. If you have to train or if you have to hire, ask yourself, have I benefited from my primary human resources? These are your children. I gave an example of having worked with one of the prominent business people in Kampala. And I'll tell you slightly about what I saw. When I was working at the Bankers Institute at some point, that family was heavily vested into the banking sector. I saw this businessman bring his children to the Banking Institute. We actually taught them. And why did they do this? They wanted to understand the sector. As a businessman, he wanted someone professionally grounded to appreciate the sector. On the other hand, one of the family members was out in the UK studying business from the best business college. And the idea was to simply help make them appreciate what this whole business is like and put it to a professional level. Unfortunately, we lost the son at some point, but the good thing is, which is the magic, the family has tried to pick on from there, all because they are trying as much as possible to structure the business and make it move beyond the founder, who is still living. But of course, he's aging and becoming a little weaker. But I'm happy to see, for instance, the different developments they're making since the loss of their the son who was supposed to be the next generation leader. I've seen the daughters take on actively and are trying to handle the mantle ahead of their their father and mother. And then lastly is the issue of how we behave. For instance, if we are in the diaspora, the disconnect that normally exists. It is important for us to appreciate the connection that we have back home and harvest all the opportunity that it brings intentionally. Away from training our human resources, do we exactly have them or assume that at some point they'll just simply take over? It doesn't work that way. Grooming is a wholesome process. It's involvement, it's training, it's enculturing. Grooming is a 360 assignment. We spend so much money. I think you all know how expensive, for instance, education can be, especially in Uganda. absolutely expensive. But training for which purposes? The idea is don't train for everyone else before you train for yourself. If you have a local farm somewhere in the rural areas of of Uganda, for instance, and for now you're looking at dairy products. If you train your children to understand agriculture better, you might move from that point to see them even consider leather as a byproduct of that farm from the cow skins. So it's an issue of having an intention, and that intention being seen to fruition through very committed actions. And that's the direction that validates this, especially because communities elsewhere have done it. Our friends in India exhibit this, they show it. Our friends from China clearly show it. The only reason they move from their country elsewhere is basically to tap into technology, obtain capital, get the money, and also to obtain exposure. We do not do that. We instead totally leave. Now, that is absolutely dangerous because then we are not breathing into our own spaces. We are breathing into every other person's spaces and not having a discussion about progressing family enterprises in Africa. And that's a discussion that we all need to appreciate and have focus on intentionally. So if you look at any example elsewhere, talk about Ford. The reason you can drive Ford today is because Henry Ford had a vision and he institutionalized his company. And today you can see Ford, Tata, Toyota, Walmart, name it. Samsung, everybody has a Samsung, but do you know the generations? It is a family business. You all take sugar in Kampala, for instance. But Madivani made it possible to have sugar right at your table. And that has been from generation to generation. So why do you think of your idea as a small idea? Why do you not institutionalize? If you do not write, then if it's not documented, then it doesn't exist. Simple business rules. Do you really understand your numbers? If you do understand your numbers, do your children or family members understand the numbers too? Those are the questions. So why do you eliminate them from the business under the care of love and miss the point of engaging them intentionally for progression? That business might never have a chance to survive if you do not do the intentional calls. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Just a quick reminder to all our participants online, kindly mute your microphones to avoid interruption while our doctor is presenting. And then moving on, I just want to thank you all for being here with us. And moving forward, Doc, I think we can now allow the audience involvement right now. So for anyone out here, anyone here that has questions, it's now a time for a question and answer session. You can write them here on our chat, or you can pause to ask. Just unmute yourself and Doctor will be here to answer the question or questions as we move forward. Okay, going through the comment section, we do not have any questions here yet. Some people are simply talking about the network interference and the instability, but other than that, we do not have any questions as yet.
Hi, Samali. My name is Maurice. and I'm live from Kampala, Uganda. My question to Dr. Fred is that statistics, especially in Uganda, is that 5% out of the enterprises that begin as startups, only 5% make it to their first birthday. Just 5%. Look at the fraction. And I'm very glad Professor has talked about figures. He's posed the question, do you, as a business owner, do you understand figures? And the first line of human resource that you have, your children, your cousins, your siblings, that's the first line. Do they understand the figures? And if at all, is there any attempt by you? Because ideally, business is about understanding the figures. Once you don't understand the numbers, whether you're talking about bookkeeping, whether you're talking about business models, you must be sure about your numbers. Okay? Prof, where is the missing link? At the end of the day, why is it 5%? We've tried to figure it out. Every day someone is starting a business. Every day someone is starting something that looks like a business. But just 5% make it to their first birthday. No. Where is the problem? In your own assessment, based on your experience, what you've seen, the vast knowledge that you've gathered across this region, diagnose for us, Prof. Where is the missing link?
Thank you, Morris. That is a very, very welcome question. Yes, Uganda has been identified in figures for having a very entrepreneurial society, and indeed, we do well in terms of coming up with very, very glossy ideas, ideas that make everyone happy. Be it a startup, be it a village project, just that speaks to how innovative and entrepreneurial Ugandans are. But this is the problem. Why do they not see their second birthday? Speak to the three aspects that I am putting a lot of emphasis on today. Institutionalizing. How do they really run these businesses? Are they in any way looking at the ecosystem and making an effort to pick from it, benefit from it generally, or that is not happening? Ecosystem, which basically speaks to organizational behavior. An organization does not thrive only because of the internal dynamics. It also thrives because of the environment around it. So before you get started, what is the environment around you? It's good to have a good idea, fine. But what is the environment around you? Understand the environment around you and how you will thrive through that environment. That question needs to come out. Then, of course, the human resource. When you start up, especially about startups, people begin startups with their friends, not with their competent others. That makes a difference. If you identify with an individual that is like-minded on an idea, it's likely that you will have the idea progressed. But if it's a friend, that casual nature of relationship will normally compromise the business intentions that you both harbor. So eventually you will see it flicker through into your day-to-day business habits. Soon you won't be doing any records. Soon you'll casually start to pick out money to fund your personal engagements. And sooner than later, you will have personal disagreements. Disagreements that will actually break it down. Now, that is what the data shows. That's what findings across the board show. And it's not because the idea wasn't good. No, it's the environment in which that idea was nurtured, including the habits of the founders. But thanks, Morris.
You're welcome, Prof. Welcome, Prof.
Thank you very much.
There
Doc,
is,
you have another question?
Samantha, there is a question in the comment from Solomon.
It says, what do you mean by breakaway and what do you mean by galvanize? Could you please?
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And coming from Solomon, I gather I know this gentleman.
Okay.
Solomon is an accomplished English speaker. And if he chooses to ask this, I know why he is asking this. Well, why break away and why galvanize? Break away from that mindset that does not allow you to move from simply personalizing the entity to support the institutionalizing of that entity. Break away from cultures that alienate women or our daughters from being part and parcel of business to involving them. Break away from habits that help you train for everyone else and fail to train for yourself. I mean, you spend so much money educating children in schools elsewhere for purposes of them becoming X, Y, and Z professions. But you do not train at all to nurture your children, support the entity that you seriously put an energy into. So you break away from all that. When you break away from all that, you actually galvanize. That is the only way you galvanize. And therefore, it's those practices that we need to work on as a society and see the better of tomorrow. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Doc. Solomon, we hope you got your...
up there.
Yes, we do. Could we take Richard Semakula first? Richard, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, the moderator. Thank you very much, Dr. Kasirie, for such an insightful book. I think it's coming at the time that definitely the country needs it. And I've gone through the book, not read the entire book, but it definitely provides very good insights. From your presentation, Dr. Kasirie, you have given us a very good live examples through your mentorship, through the people that you have associated with, through business that have been able to stand the test of time. And it is my sincere hope that some of these have been covered in the book. If not, then maybe if there's another review. We need more of those stories. When they provide very good inspiration, and those businesses that may be limping because of missing some of those concepts can really pick and get inspired to move on. So thank you very much. I hope, since I've not gone through the entire book, hope those stories are very, very important experience that we can look at and see, yes, it can work. But we are very grateful. There's quite a lot of information, and you put it in a way that is easy to read. And I think we're grateful. Thank you.
Should I handle that, Samantha?
Please.
Okay. Richard, I'm very grateful to hear from you. Richard was my colleague at the Bankers Institute. He was my senior colleague. I'm proud of the work that you do. I'm happy to have ever associated with you, and I'm happy that you made it for this call. And he's also an entrepreneur. I know he's doing quite a couple of things that are driving into this kind of direction. I know that the family there is doing quite some work, and I wish them absolutely well. Actually, you should be on my list for the next June, July. I should be visiting you to probably see how we can think along what you're doing. But thanks for that question, and this is my response. And I will relate it exactly to how we did what we did when we were working together. As a country, we do not have a profiled database of business case studies that can be liberally discussed in business schools. And so it's not easy to cite these cases in authored pieces of work like mine, because it takes a level of obtaining authorization to do it. It takes different levels. So that's why most of the cases in many of these other spaces discussing business are largely international firms, because those are properly profiled by business schools, and the cases are up for discussion and for navigation for purposes of learning. But in Uganda, I have put some cases in there, in that book, but not mentioned the companies or the persons. And that was intentional, because I was not at liberty to do so, because these are not properly profiled for purposes of learning. It takes quite some authored piece of work to do this, to have this credibly listed for purposes of other people to cite and properly cite them, because it can have serious issues that are legal. But yes, there is many cases there referred to, but without them clearly being identified. The only very, very closely related to are those of my peers, people that I know. And we have a very good buddy relationship that might not lead me in any of the Ugandan courts. But yes, sure, another level of validation that we need to work on, because we cannot teach business in a country where we do not have cases that we can discuss, yet they're everywhere for us to see. Thank you, Richard. I think we can have Gusta now.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Yes, let's take Gusta.
Thank you very much, moderator. And I want to join others in congratulating Dr. Fred upon this milestone. Thank you very much that you are even writing around the subject that I have always envied. Doctor, you've talked about the culture. My question is around, what is the optimal culture or desired culture in our enterprises? Is there something like, this is the right culture? I must admit that I have not yet read the book. Probably you'll also let us know where we can find this book. I would love to read the book so that I can also put everything in proper perspective. Secondly, you've talked about training for others. I have interacted with many people with private businesses. Sometimes we train our children, they go up to the university, you even allow them to work for others, but the whole intention is to pick systems, how they work in those if I could call developed companies, then they can replicate in your private enterprise with the objective of copying the right system. So I don't know whether your book has taken into account such kind of scenarios. Finally, how are you addressing the issue of preparing for retirement? Just like here in Kampala, raising capital is not easy. You work fast. Sometimes as you work, you are setting up that enterprises, and there are challenges along the way. I don't know whether that book has covered all that. If yes, kindly explain to us. Otherwise, thank you very much for this work, and thank you for contributing to this important topic in our country. I submit.
Gusta, it is humbling to hear from you. I'm not at liberty to really disclose where you actually work, but Gusta is one of the people that plans for this country, and he's well placed, and he speaks with a lot of authority when he comes to issues economics and the direction that this country should go to. So these questions are actually well thought through, I believe, and I would like to respond as such. One, there is no preferred culture. Culture is dynamic. The question is, what culture do you want? You institute the culture you want where you are, amongst the people that you survive with. And it is okay for you to move against the tide. It's absolutely okay. Now the question should be, let us look at the beauty of the culture that we all know. For instance, the Ghanaian culture, who are the people? The people that we relate with are persons that are welcoming, collective in nature, persons that are warm at heart. How do you tap into this and make it make business sense? Quick case in point. How do you employ? Do you seek for labor far away from your investment? How is that going to help the community in which you live? It will certainly bring unnecessary bad blood. But you need a community that survives as much as you thrive. So the thriving should be on both sides. And so identify with the culture that you would like to have. But in literature, businesses have thrived based on key principles: clarity of roles, direction. Don't make things foggy. That will help structure what you are doing and how you're doing it. Lending resources for purposes of borrowing ideas and systems. There is two sides to this, and I actually speak about it in the book. There's two sides to it. One, what are your intentions? If your intentions are clearly to pick lessons, then take it as an apprenticeship elsewhere to pick lessons on a given time span, not for an open period of time, because eventually these would be next generation leaders will simply say, if dad is giving me 500,000 Ugandan shillings and the other company is paying me, well, probably 10 million Ugandan shillings, certainly they will say, looking at the pressures that I have as an individual growing in, and I would like to thrive, I would certainly look the other side instead of coming to support home. But if you failed in your initial steps of breeding this culture, then certainly you cannot institutionalize, even when it comes to trying to make sure that you have the human resources in your own base groomed for your purposes. So it's a 2-in-1. You need to think about it, both looking at the intention with which you're doing it, and how you're doing it. But most importantly, be firm on the goal. Then preparing for retirement, long discussion there. And because I know you're very well versed with the financial services sector, I would dare ask, how much money should a Ugandan have at the time of retirement? Certainly that question cannot be answered. But in terms of money, it can't be answered. But it can be answered on one, if you're doing something like a family enterprise, did you put in place systems that will help you continue earning even when you are retiring? One. Number two, because even capital, for instance, you all know the data that NSSF gives us. Many people pick their money out of there and they're not able to use it because first, it comes in very big volumes. Secondly, when it comes in those volumes, many have not handled that kind of money in one go. They simply splash it and within 2 years, none of them can continue. So either the businesses they started will collapse or they too will follow the businesses to meet our load. So these kinds of things speak to how we plan. And from the day you start an entity, whether you're at 25, start planning for the exit, which might be 25 later. Start planning for the exit. Don't wait for the last paycheck in your what you refer to as your formal employment. No. If you are out doing any of that called formal employment, it is important that you think otherwise and say, okay, what is my disengagement time? Don't wait for the employer to say, hey, you're now this age and this is the time when you have to leave. Start asking, what is my disengagement? Because it is a step by step. You do not just simply cut and leave and expect that things will move normally long after you're gone. You need to have created this and you should be able to see it move year on and you see progress clearly marking out. There is a tool at the end of the book that speaks to how you do this disengagement. So that will be an area that you might want to look at. You also talked about where do you get the book? Yes, I am going to, as the show ends up, I will be able to communicate. And but also I think I can as well communicate in the chat room. But currently we have a handler that has the right to handle these cells by the names of Nansubuga Ntege Flores, and she's making deliveries to all individuals in Uganda that are interested in having the book. It is costed at 80,000 Ugandan shillings, and she is on 0774 494 500. Florence Nansubuga Ntege. But if you're interested, you can as well communicate to me, and I should be able to send her a communication, and she'll be able to reach out to you. But for Gustav, we talked, and then you'll be getting your copy within the next week after Easter. Thank you. There is a comment in the comment section where I say, "Oh, Doctor, okay, you being in the diaspora, how have you been able to connect locally down in Uganda?" I talked about the gender dividend. I talked about the gender dividend. I for purposes of context, I lost my father so many years ago, but my father left an estate that we needed to manage, and if I moved out of the country, I also lost my brother who was managing that estate. So and we were left three of us. That is me and two of my sisters, one being a tax consultant and another a finance expert. Now these two have taken on the mantle even where I am not. And everything simply moves smooth. All I see are reports. We meet every month, the last Thursday of every month, just to have a business meeting, a formal business meeting. Now, I leveraged them. I mean, these are resources around us. If we do not use them, we cannot benefit from them. Just because they are female does not make them incompetent. They are absolutely competent and exceptionally talented. And you know, the rewards that I have received out of working with them, I cannot say, you know, thank you enough. It's one thing that I have seen, and I document to every individual that bothers to appreciate the importance of persons irrespective of their gender. And so I ask everyone on this call to think equally in the same direction. Think about the daughters, the girls, the ladies in your family as an equal and yet also very competent resource. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Before you continue, I'll just make a few remarks here. A reminder to all of you, for those of you that would like to go back and watch the show later, it will be on YouTube, so feel free to always go back at your own convenience and find the show there. And then another reminder is that I have just pinned the number the doctor gave you, the number of the lady selling the books. So feel free to check the chat section. You will find the number there under the names of Nansubuga, Flores, and Tege. Thank you. Doctor, we have several questions in the comment section. I think we could take 2 or 3 more, and then we need to wrap up the show.
Yeah, sure. And there is a hand too, but let me quickly take the comments here.
Yeah.
Humphrey Asime, another distinguished member of the Ugandan community, happy to read from what you said right there. Sure, we will be able to reach out to you and have this book shared with you. Lambert, you are talking about continuity, that it's important, and you know, everyone would like to breed the interest of the children that are looking in different direction. How do we actually identify with that? Incidentally, we work in an ecosystem. There is no one single idea that stands on its own. Imagine you're a doctor and you have set up a hospital, and your focus will dictate that you probably train all your children to be doctors. But incidentally not, what happens is that for a hospital to survive, it thrives on so many other services. So what does or do your children treasure? Then the next question should be, how can you tap into that skill or interest that they have to service the core business that you do? That is how all these big family businesses across the world actually operate. They know what their core service is, but they do not compromise also on any other parts of the ecosystem. So this is one thing that you need to ask yourself: what is the direction my children are taking? What are their interests, and how best can they serve the common interest of the family? Could you have a soft copy of the recording? Yeah, sure. That's mentioned. James, thank you. Amber hope is that for government to have a deliberate institutional framework for private sector to benchmark on otherwise. Okay, now this is government. Okay, basically engage government. Okay. James, I will be happy to have that invitation to interface with any government officials that you set me up with. Joanita, strategies can individuals use to galvanize themselves into disciplined financial habits? Yeah. It takes an individual to change their own habits. I mean, I don't know why many people are in the habit of consuming more than they actually earn. It's always important to understand how much you earn and then how well you can spend it, and also think about how well you can grow the few resources that you have. So it takes you as an individual to make that decision and that call. We all cannot have enough. Emma is my friend from here. What message does the book offer for young unmarried thinkers? Every message that I have shared here, every message, and you are best placed. You are the best placed persons to pick from this because you are not yet in the trap. First, when you're choosing a companion, is it because of beauty or is it beauty and the brains? And by the way, choosing a companion is the greatest investment decision you can ever make. So Emma, I don't know about, we shall have a conversation later. I know one of these days, but think about the partner that either you have or you should be having soon, and whether they will be an investment in themselves or a liability. You mentioned those diaspora for okay. What advice do you give for those in the diaspora who have enterprises run by family in Uganda? Institutionalize, institutionalize, institutionalize. If penalties have to be given, stop thinking my family. Do it. As good as you hire, be comfortable to fire. Thank you, doctor. Okay. Perspective. Okay. Okay, good information. Very passionate about retirement, planning, financial. Okay, beyond paycheck. Okay, thank you. We have Ronald Kaziwe with a hand, and then we can take the comments done with. Yes, Ronald.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Fred Kasirye. My brother, thanks for the wonderful presentation. I'm streaming live from Madrid, and this is quite very interesting. I'm a Reverend Catholic priest, and I wish you all a very nice Easter. We are celebrating the Paschal mysteries here in Madrid. Thank you for the wonderful book. Little by little, we're trying to dive into it, and I think it is very, very, very practical and important, especially in these our current times. When we go back home in Uganda, first and foremost, I want us to analyze and accept that the education curriculum that we have really nurtures theory than practical. Students really understand the why but lack the skills. And the parents sometimes don't go an extra mile to trust their kids to put them into the projects. Why? Because the parents have a fear and mistrust of their children. Sometimes a parent cannot trust and imagine a world where they are not, because they are the heroes, they began the story and they want to continue looking at it. In these our modern times, the kids of this generation look at innovation. The parents look at sustenance, and those are like they're a little bit conflicting. So sometimes the parents talk to us as priests. Father, pray for me. Father, give me some counseling. I need to know how are we going to sustain this business now that I'm almost reaching retirement. Now I need to know what I'm going to do. And it becomes a little bit very hard to convince the parents that really you would have formed your child a little bit better. At this time, I've seen so many friends, parents who have now begun the custom, the practice of sending their children to go and study in different countries with different developed education systems to change their mindsets and also look at the diversity of the culture of work and hustle, which probably could help, though sometimes it begins, like you said in the beginning, it all begins from the nurturance of the parents in the family. Now, even with that nurturance, now what is the passion of this child? When the children aren't interested, it usually becomes the business of the parent, because it's the dream of the parent and on their own dream. So it produces these interested successors, and absolutely the sustenance of the business remains a pain. I've sat with so many successful investors who have really done very big projects and investments. They gave birth to only 2 children, and the children are very comfortable in their own success, and the parents are also thriving in their own. So it creates some bit of ego, some bit of pride. I have my own stuff. I have my own passion. Let that do their own stuff. So in the long run, well, it is a little bit crazy and confusing. Thank you very much, Dr. Fred. Thanks for everyone who is on the platform, and God bless you all. A nice Easter to you, my dear friends.
Reverend Father Raymond, I'm very happy to hear from you, and hope Madrid is treating you well. That is a guy trying to push the legal profession in the Catholic Church, and I'm happy about the work that you do, also because you closely relate with me. Thanks a lot. But this is I need to say this, Ronald. Yes, we cannot all do things on our own. We are a collective society. And this is demonstrated, for instance, when we have misfortunes. Just mention that someone lost another, and you'll see everyone running around with a few shillings to make sure that they pull up some money for the funeral. But tell them you want to start a business. Everyone will say, hey, he wants to begin a business, and then he's asking us for money. That should be the greatest news. And that should be the reason we all pull in and support them. How do you spend your money? I personally, for instance, buy from my people. Before I make a decision to spend elsewhere, I should be sure that all that I need, nobody within my circles sells. Why? Because I want them to feel the confidence and to keep the money within. I take education decisions based on the schools that my people have. Why? Because I want to nurture that. That's what I want to see. And it's the culture that I want to breed. Like what I spoke to when Gusta asked, you choose the culture you want. But most importantly, Raymond Mutawe, another colleague of mine in the chat room, talked about the need to take this to the grassroots. Raymond, you pull the shots. Raymond manages a center that is, again, I'm trying to be very calculative in my communication so that I do not sell you away entirely. He manages a center of governance somewhere very close to me. So, Raymond, please invite me. I am okay with having these conversations any day in your society. And most importantly, I also need to let you know that we are working towards translating this practical guide into Luganda for wider reach. So the English that we've spoken here might as well just stop here and amongst you. But any persons that speak Luganda could be benefiting from this closer to the end of the year. So Raymond, feel free to engage me any day. You have my number. Any day, I should be able to support. Please feel free. And the comment from okay, Francis. Oh, Francis, be nice. Hearing from you as well. And I know you're doing many projects back home as well, much as you are in the diaspora. And okay, Ronald, because oh, cool. All right, Samantha, I'm good. But you have a question from Fred Luanga. If we can do it.
Yes, of course. Fred Luanga, the floor is all yours.
All right. Thank you, Doc. Thank you, the moderator and all participants. My name is Rwanga Chintu Fred, Uganda. Mine is to extend my thanks to Doc for this book, Break Away to Galvanize. I got myself a copy and I found it so interesting. One, somebody said that the best preacher is he who exercises what he preaches. And I think the book
is practical. It is turning away from the theory to practical. I myself, I feel it is not only going to help the persons who are interested at business startup, but also the professors in the academic world on how a transition from theory to practical. I thank you. But also, Doc, I wanted to ask a question on how you're thinking about how mindset drives business transformation in that regard, or how mindset in a way can lead to the success or failure of a business. Now talking about he who wants to begin a business. I thank you and I submit. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for those comments, engineer Fred Wonga, colleague of mine as well, from my past and a friend, personal friend. Thanks for what you do. But I'll point to your question directly. Mindset is, you know, it's part of culture. It's what you choose to think, put in your brain, and thrive with. So exposure is one way to diffuse rigid mindsets. And if you feel like you're stuck in any way over something, for instance, many people who lead businesses and they think that they're the alpha and omega of those businesses, it's important to see what others are doing, especially in your sector, so that you defrost that. So indeed, mindset has a very big role it plays in thriving or actually stalling an investment. And it's really like more like what culture would do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc. To all our participants, I take this opportunity once again to thank each and every one of you for sparing your precious time to come and be here with us. Remember, we are talking about Break Away to Galvanize, a book launch that has been written by Dr. Fred Kasirye. As we wrap up today, we want you to remember this. Every great legacy begins with one bold decision to break away in order to galvanize. In Break Away to Galvanize, Dr. Fred Kasirye reminds us that family enterprises don't fail because of their roots, but because they forget to grow beyond them. So here's your challenge. Honor the founder, but don't live in their shadow. Step forward, lead boldly, and build a legacy that evolves. Thank you very much for being part of this journey. And you should also take this home, that we do not lack ambition, but rather we lack structured transition. Dr. Kasirye, kindly give your final remarks on this as we head to wrap up the session. But before you do, to everyone here, remember we are on Euroforum Uganda, streaming live on Facebook as well as YouTube, so feel free to go back and watch the show whenever you feel like. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for moderating this, Samantha. As we wind up, I need to say a few quick statements here. As a country, we do not lack ambition. No, we do not. Uganda is full of builders, and that is attested to even in international statistics. But what we lack is intentional transition. And this, we are failing because of systems. So what we need to do is to get our communication right. What we need to do is to structure our behavior. What we need to do is to train right, have our human resources in the right direction with the right energies. What we all need to appreciate is the fact that we have a resource that we have not used, and that is family, absolutely underutilized. And because when you have the powers to do some business, those that benefit from you will abuse you by taking advantage of you. And that is all because of you accepting that to happen. So you need to put sufficient guardrails. to make sure that you put in place a culture that you will permit to thrive in your existence and post your time. This will, in one way or the other, support you to build an enterprise that will last beyond you, and not one that enables you to simply succeed during your time. Break away, and galvanize is part of the solution to your journey. I really want to thank you all that have made it for this particular call. I am humbled by your presence, and above all, I want to also state that you have made my day. This conversation multiplied by 40 people on the call means you are going to talk to your families, you are going to change your way of communicating, improve your systems at home, but also think about intentionally training your children, because before anyone else benefits from that human resource, you should be the primary beneficiary of that human resource. Thank you, Samantha, for moderating this, and thank you, Euroforum, for giving us a platform to have these discussions thriving on this page.
What a wrap up. Thank you very much, Dr. Kasirye. We do appreciate you, and we thank you very much for your time. On a lighter note, I would like to inform all our participants today that today happens to be a double blessing day for our one and only doctor, who has added a year to his many years on earth. So allow me wish him officially a happy and splendid birthday. Doctor, happiest birthday to you, and may God grant all your heart desires. We hope your day is filled with lots and lots of love and happiness. May all your dreams come true. Yeah. So from Euroforum Uganda and to all the participants, please join me and wish Dr. Kasirye a happiest birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, today is my birthday, and I chose to share this with you. I am happy that you honored my invitation without knowing that it was my birthday. Please have the best of your heart's desires today and onwards. And tomorrow, as you go to celebrate Easter, may He rise with you all. And may He put you at the best place of your heart's desires. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much, Doctor. To everyone out there, take care and God bless you. And we wish you a very happy Easter. For Euroforum Uganda, I have been your host, Samantha Elf. Until next time, we love you all. Bye for now.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.